Hey, welcome to World Code Updates. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. Breaking news: Russian MiG-31s have breached NATO airspace over the Baltic, escalating tensions to a new high. This was no accident, it was a calculated test of NATO's resolve. The MiG-31 Foxhounds, Russia's fastest interceptors, were built to dominate the skies with speed and altitude, their mission to show that Russian air power could penetrate NATO defenses at will. In Brussels, Tallinn, and Washington, alarms sounded. Was this a prelude to war, or another move in the ongoing chess match over Eastern Europe? For NATO, the immediate concern was clear: hostile aircraft were violating protected airspace. The response had to be swift and flawless. Credibility was on the line. This incident didn't come out of nowhere. Months of close calls and aggressive maneuvers had set the stage. The MiG-31's incursion was Moscow's boldest move yet, betting that their speed and altitude would make interception impossible. But the rules of air combat had changed. Unknown to the Russian pilots, they were flying into a carefully prepared trap. NATO's response was already in motion, quiet, patient, and technologically advanced. No frantic scrambles. Instead, a lesson in modern air warfare was about to unfold. The age of brute force was giving way to the age of information dominance. The Foxhounds, symbols of raw power, were about to meet the ghosts of the digital age. The Baltic sky was about to become a classroom. The world was watching. At 60,000 feet, the MiG-31 pilots felt invincible. Their flight path was a direct challenge to NATO, a show of force meant to intimidate. Taking off from Kaliningrad, they accelerated to supersonic speeds, crossing into Estonian airspace with confidence. Their instruments showed no threats. The sky seemed clear. The pilots believed their speed and altitude made them untouchable. They expected interceptors or missile warnings. None came. Their confidence was built on old assumptions. That air combat was about speed, altitude, and brute force. But they were looking for threats they understood. Jets racing to meet them, radar locks, missile alerts. What they didn't expect was an enemy that fought with data, not just missiles. As they pushed deeper, their powerful radars, meant to be their greatest asset, were actually broadcasting their position to silent listeners. The MiGs were flying blind to the real threat. They were prepared for a physical fight, not an invisible one. The sky was quiet, but the electronic battlefield was alive. The Foxhounds were being watched, mapped, and targeted, without ever knowing it. Their gamble was about to backfire. The hunters were becoming the hunted. Long before the MiG-31s crossed the border, NATO was watching. The moment the MiG's radars powered up, electronic signals were picked up by ground stations, ships, and, most importantly, 2 F-35s already on patrol. These F-35s weren't scrambling to intercept. They were waiting, invisible, gathering data. This was a proactive, intelligence-led operation, not a reaction. Swedish Gripens, integrated into the defense network, waited in reserve as designated shooters. The NATO battle manager, deep underground, watched the digital map as the MiGs entered the trap. The F-35s acted as forward eyes and ears, using stealth and sensors to track the intruders. The Gripens, linked by data, were ready to strike on command. The plan was patience. Let the MiGs fly deeper, grow more confident, and provide more intelligence. Every second, the F-35s collected data, building a perfect picture of the threat. This was a reversal of Cold War tactics. No dramatic dogfights, just control of the information space. The F-35s were flying sensor platforms, not just fighters. The Gripens, with their powerful data links, were the perfect partners. Missile trucks waiting for the signal, the hunters were in place, the prey was oblivious. The electronic net was tightening, the MiGs had no idea they were already surrounded. The trap was set. The F-35s, masters of the electromagnetic spectrum, began their silent work. They kept their radars in passive mode, listening instead of broadcasting. Their Barracuda electronic warfare suites detected and mapped every signal from the MiG's powerful radars. With 2 F-35s triangulating, they built a precise real-time map of the MiG's positions, without ever revealing themselves. This data was instantly fused and shared via secure data links. The Swedish Gripens, waiting across the border, suddenly saw the MiGs on their own displays, without using their own radars. The MiG pilots saw nothing. Their systems were blind to the F-35's presence. Every pulse from the MiG's radars was being used against them. The Air Force was being 35 acted as quarterbacks, feeding targeting data to the entire network. The Gripens became shooters, ready to launch missiles at targets they couldn't see. The MiGs, confident in their electronic superiority, were flying straight into the snare. The invisible net was now in place. The F-35s had turned the MiG's strength into their greatest vulnerability. The prey was deep in the trap. The next move would be decisive. The Gripen pilots, Viking 1 and 2, watched their screens as the MiGs moved into range. Using F-35 targeting data, they locked onto the MiGs without ever turning on their own radars. The Meteor missiles, ramjet-powered and nearly impossible to evade, were ready. Viking 1 targeted the lead MiG. Viking 2 targeted the trailing one. The F-35s also simulated missile locks, feeding data into their own AMRAAM systems. All three MiGs were now targeted from multiple directions, without a single radar beam touching them. The electronic net was pulled tight. The MiG pilots were about to face a threat they couldn't see or fight. The beauty of the trap was its silence and overwhelming control. The MiGs were surrounded by invisible hunters. The Meteor and AMRAAM missiles, if launched, would come from unexpected directions. The MiGs had already lost. They just didn't know it yet. The message was clear. NATO owned the engagement. The signal to retreat was about to be sent. The lesson would be unforgettable. For the MiG pilots, chaos erupted in an instant. Alarms blared, threat receivers screamed, multiple missile locks from every direction. Their radar screens filled with static and false targets, courtesy of the F-35's electronic warfare. Communication was jammed. The pilots were isolated, blind, and deaf. Their instruments, once a source of confidence, now lied to them. The feeling of invincibility vanished, replaced by dread. They were no longer hunters, but prey. Training took over. Countermeasures deployed. Evasive maneuvers begun. But how do you evade a threat you can't see? Their speed and altitude, once assets, now trapped them deeper in the kill zone. The psychological impact was devastating. Air combat depends on situational awareness. The MiG pilots had lost it all. Their high-tech jets were reduced to blunt instruments flying blind. The trap had been sprung with terrifying efficiency. The MiGs were at NATO's mercy. Amid the chaos, a calm voice cut through the jamming on the Russian frequency. Russian aircraft, you have violated NATO airspace. You are being tracked and targeted. Reverse course immediately. The message was clear, professional, and left no room for doubt. For the MiG pilots, it was both a threat and a lifeline. The jamming paused just long enough for the message to get through. The humiliation was immense, but survival instincts prevailed. Berkut 1 banked hard, turning back toward Russian territory. His wingmen followed, each making the same decision in silence. The missile warnings vanished, the static cleared, but the sense of defeat lingered. The bravado was gone. The reality of their defeat was undeniable. They had been outmaneuvered and dominated, without a single shot fired. The flight home was silent, the lesson clear. NATO's message had been received, not just by the pilots, but by their commanders. The MiGs had flown into a fight and been defeated by ghosts. The new rules of the sky had been written. The world had witnessed a new kind of air power. The balance had shifted. This encounter was a clash of three philosophies. The MiG-31, raw power, speed, and brute force, a relic of the Cold War. Its massive radar and engines made it easy to detect. Its strength now a weakness. The F-35, stealth, data, and information dominance. Its sensors and data links made it the quarterback of the battlefield, blinding enemies and empowering allies. The Gripen efficient, networked, and adaptable. Not the fastest or stealthiest, but deadly as a missile truck, launching Meteor missiles, with targeting data from others. The missiles told the same story. The MiG's R-33 and R-37 relied on its own radar. If jammed, they were useless. The AMRAAM and Meteor, guided by the network, were unstoppable. The lesson: in modern air combat, data is the ultimate weapon. Power is nothing without information. The future belongs to those who control the network. The sky had changed. The MiG-31's retreat marked a turning point in European air power. Speed and altitude were no longer enough. Information dominance was now king. The Foxhounds, once feared, had been rendered helpless by invisible adversaries. For Russia, it was a wake-up call. Brute force alone was obsolete. For NATO, it was validation. Decades of investment in stealth, sensors, and networking had paid off. The F-35 and Gripen partnership proved the power of cooperative engagement. Teamwork, powered by data, had triumphed over isolated strength. NATO's posture hardened. Future violations would meet decisive responses. The era of impunity was over. The risk for aggressors had skyrocketed. The rules of engagement were now written in electrons and data. The sky was the same, but the game had changed forever. The digital age of air combat had arrived.